Sezno. Major sounds sadder than minor. Sometimes. Here's a fucking hot take for you. Major is happy and minor is sad. The age-old simplification of our two favorite modes. But it is a simplification, and it's kind of not true. I think this is most often used to compare the sounds of the individual chords. It does have meaning in this capacity, like almost like an ear training exercise. Major chord over here, minor chord over here. But I've found that some people take this concept further to extend to keys. As in, music in a major key is happy, music in a minor key is sad. I want to argue that it's way more nuanced than this. And I believe that an assumption about the general emotional tendency of something like key center should not precede the writing of the material itself. Because notes and chords and keys are funny, they're elastic. And how a musical idea is presented is really the thing that matters and determines the emotional quality that you're looking for. The notes are a secondary element in all that. They're subordinated in relation to the complete package of the music. Like I mentioned earlier, the major is happy, minor is sad concept is easy enough to understand when you compare the sounds of a major triad and a minor triad. Yes, a major chord is brighter. We associate it with joy. A minor triad is darker, less stable, which for some reason we associate with sadness. Side by side, this is a fairly comprehensible binary opposition. One sounds happier than the other. But emotions are way more complicated than that. And pieces of music don't come from just one chord, unless you're Steve Reich. The line gets blurrier very quickly when you bring other chords into the equation. The majorness or minorness of a passage really comes from the other chords and how they interact with each other. And Music Theory 101 here, in both a major key and a minor key, you have some major chords and some minor chords, just on different notes relative to where the music sounds the most stable, the most rested. You knew that shit. I knew you knew that shit. The opposition between those two chord qualities is fundamental to both key concepts. Even staying within the key, you can give some darker spice to a major key by playing one of the minor chords. And likewise, a minor key can be brightened by its major chords. But if this is all jargon to you, the important thing is the emotional character of a piece of music is much deeper than just the notes. Take the following two songs as examples. Yesterday by the Beatles and Superstition by Stevie Wonder. Hopefully you know both of these songs. There is a clear emotional distinction between these two songs. Yesterday is a haunting acoustic ballad about heartbreak, complete with a weeping string section. The Beatles had plenty of joyous songs. This is not one of them. Superstition is a banger. One of the classic, funky, feel-good anthems of all time. And yet, Yesterday is in a major key, and Superstition is in a minor key. So, with these two songs, what actually contributes to the emotional quality if it's not the key, if it's not the notes? Hopefully you see the point I'm making by now. The emotional qualities of songs come about in a myriad of ways. And to follow an assumption that, well, this has to be in minor because I want to write a sad song, and minor is sad, that does not make sense. I've spoken to people who think of it this way. Superstition is such a feel-good song. Minor key, but all this jubilation comes out of the colors in the arrangement, all the different sounds, the bounciness of the rhythm, the upbeat tempo, the thumping, catchy bass line, and Stevie's vocal performance, which is assertive and confident. Compare that to Yesterday, which works with very different elements. Paul McCartney's vocal is very restrained and gentle and fragile and vulnerable. So are the lyrics. The arrangement is very sparse, often just his vocal and an acoustic guitar with some strings that come in later. There's no propelling drum beat or bouncy bass line or even vocal harmonies to make this major key song sound happier. It is deliberately soft and confessional. And the complete musical package communicates a very distinct emotional quality of melancholy and regret. And the fact that the song is in major is kind of irrelevant. It's deeper than just the chords. The way the melody dances, the arrangement, the dynamics, the structure, the lyrics, all of these things contribute to the emotion. The determining thing is not the quality of the one chord. Major has this odd ability to be heart-wrenching. Some of you will know what I'm talking about. I've thought this for a while now, and I've often wondered where it comes from. There's something childlike about a melody in major. It might be that some of the earliest tunes that we're exposed to as children are in major. Happy birthday is in major. Old MacDonald had a farm is in major. We learn to hear major from a very young age, inadvertently. A child who begins piano lessons, the first thing they learn is C major. And I think as we get older, the sound of the major scale becomes linked with some of our most primal musical instincts. Why is it that a simple melody in major can move us to tears, even though supposedly it's happy? Maybe because it hits us with this feeling of timelessness. A perfect melody in major is magical because it feels like it's always existed, and that we're all programmed in a way to understand it before we ever hear it. It is something that we're all in on as people. Again, depends on the context, depends on the presentation, but there's a fragility to a melody in major that is way more complicated than just, it sounds happy. It can sound nostalgic. It can sound like a happy moment from your past that's gone now. Without getting too fucking sentimental over here, point being, if you're a songwriter or a producer, these are things that you can use to your advantage. Context is everything. Emotions are really complicated, and notes on a grid don't fill out all the nuances of emotional expression. Context is what determines the real emotional meaning of a particular passage. And key center and scales are only one of the tools at your disposal to achieve the effect that you want. You want sad music, play in a minor key. It doesn't work like that. I would say, know the emotional effect that you want and just trust your ears. More videos like this all the time. Like, comment, and sub.